just my friends and family have been like super supportive. I call my mom my chief psychologist officer, like I call her almost every day. She knows more about footwear than she ever cared to know at this point, I think. So I think like having a community is like really important. The other part of it is really connecting to your with your why. Like why did you start this in the first place? And like really feeling like solid, profound conviction around your why, like since the start, and then reminding you of that whenever you have like moments of doubt or moments of not as much inspiration, going back to your why and like trying to connect and project with that vision of where you think this can go. Those two things have been important. And then one last thing is I think when you're an entrepreneur, there's like a big tendency to just like work, work, work. There's always something to do. Like you're always like sending an email or talking to someone or, the limit is the sky in terms of work. And what I found is that you actually not sometimes need like a moment for yourself, and you need to create spaces for inspiration, spaces to connect with other sides of you that are not just this, and spaces to just get in like flow and enjoy life so you can come back to your work with like more energy, more inspiration.
My guest today is Leticia Viedma, founder of Cami, a women's footwear brand that blends Spanish traditional craftsmanship with modern design. Every pair is handcrafted in her hometown in Spain from premium leather, offering designer level quality without the designer markup. Before starting Cami, Leticia led the growth team at Rent the Runway, where she helped scale one of the most iconic fashion tech brands in the world. She's also a graduate of the Wharton School and began her career as an M&A attorney before transitioning into marketing and entrepreneurship. Welcome, LV. It's so nice to have you here today. Thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Hey, it's so nice to be here. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So you started your career as an M&A attorney before transitioning into marketing and entrepreneurship. Can you walk us through that journey and what inspired you to make such a big career pivot?
Yes. So I'm Spanish. I'm originally from a small city in the southeast of Spain called Alicante. And in Spain, law is an undergrad degree. So I did that as an undergrad and, started my career working in M&A, doing like advisory on transactions, buy side, sell side, a lot of private equity deals. And I did that for about 3 years, but I quickly realized that I was missing something very important, or something that I've learned that is very important to me over time, which is the sense of ownership. And, when you're a lawyer, ultimately you're always like advising, you're on the sidelines, but you're not really owning the decision making. I just noticed like most of the time I was so much more interested in learning about the business and not so much kind of the legal work around it. That's kind of what moved me to slowly change over and make a transition to the operating side. And yeah, I'm really happy I I took the plunge and make the pivot.
And so, did you have any background in fashion up until then, before you went to work at Rent the Runway?
No, not at all. So yeah, I mean, I guess just to continue on my trajectory, I left law, I transitioned. I wanted to go abroad. So I moved to Luxembourg to join the European Investment Fund. That was my next step in my career. And for those who are not familiar with the European Investment Fund, it's essentially a public private institution with a mandate of investing in like the European startup environment to really reinvigorate that layer of small and medium-sized businesses. So I believe the European Investment Fund is an LP in like 75% of European venture capital funds. So that was kind of my segue after law, and got me closer to the startup world and really solidified my wish to operate. I really think like the US is the best place to like start a company and learn. I wanted to come here. So that's when I applied to Wharton and I got in and like just came for business school. And right after business school, I joined Rent the Runway, and I had no prior experience either in fashion or as an operator. Yeah, I learned a lot on the job.
Yeah, I think we'll go back to your experience at Rent the Runway. But before I get to that, so what was the aha moment that led you to create Cami?
It started really as a passion project, and then not so long ago, this summer, honestly, I had this aha moment where I thought, "No, this is kind of what I really wanna do with my life. I wanna give this a lot of energy." And I think there's a couple of things that inspire me. First of all, I mean, I love fashion and I love shoes in particular. Whenever I had to buy shoes here, like in the US, I always like found myself having to trade off on like either price or style or quality. And so I really felt that there was a need to kind of deliver a product that nailed the value equation between like quality and price. Part of it was just like my personal journey and observations. And then on the other hand, I just like started to get really energized with the idea of like building my own company. And I think like fundamentally I'm really like a builder. That's why what I enjoy doing. So I just put all of my passions together, and that's how Kami was born.
So, how did growing up in Spain and your connection to traditional craftsmanship influence the vision behind the brand?
Yeah, so this is honestly like a not so well known fact about me, but my great grandfather actually made shoes. He had a factory, he made espadrilles. So I never met him. That was like three generations ago, but maybe there's like a genetic component to it. No, I mean, jokes aside, as I mentioned, I come from Alicante, which is city in the southeast, and it's very well known for its craftsmanship and like shoemaking and traditional leatherworks. And so growing up, I was always like super exposed to the shoemaking industry, like indirect ways. Like I went to school with girls whose parents owned factories, and just like kind of very exposed to that through my personal connections. And so, having worked in fashion here in the US, I just really thought about how can I connect all of my worlds and create something that is like special and unique to me, and somewhere where, like maybe I can do this, I guess, like better than the average. And so, yeah, I brought together my like easy access to manufacturing in my city, which I knew was going to help me deliver on really good product. And then all of my inside working in marketing, in fashion in New York, and kind of put everything together.
Oh, okay, so that makes a lot of sense now because I was going to ask you why it was important for you to manufacture your footwear in your hometown. It's being manufactured right in your hometown, right?
Yeah, correct. The city is Alicante, and then it's in one of the little villages in that region. And the reason that I wanted to do it there is because product is so important for consumer businesses. Like you cannot really market your way out of a bad product, and I would never want to like create a company around the product that isn't like top notch, right? And so I really just had very high trust that the product was going to be amazing based on my experience growing up there and like having been exposed to like Spanish shoe craftsmanship. And so yeah, that's the reason why. And then obviously I'm like so proud that in my own way I can contribute to my hometown.
So, what does the design and production process look like from concept to finished pair of shoes?
Yeah, so shoes actually have a pretty long lead time, as I've come to learn, because they are actually handmade. I was talking to my manufacturer like a couple months ago, and I think he mentioned that every single shoe that is made is touched by at least like 30 pairs of hands. And so it's like heavily manual, heavily operational. I think, from start to finish, a shoe takes at least like 48 full hours to complete. And so that means that you need to really think ahead. Like, I'm starting to think about 2026 summer collection like now. And I think I'm already kind of late in the game where we're just getting started and nimble, so can move a little bit more quickly. But there's a lot of lead time and a lot of like thinking ahead that happens. And that's the first part. The second part is shoes are like very technical because you actually need to be able to walk in them. So, it's not like ready to wear. I mean, not all ready to wear, like some ready to wear is really structured. Let's say like more mainstream ready to wear. It's just like easier, I guess, to design without specific expertise. And so in my case, I know what I'm good at. I'm definitely not a shoe designer. So I partnered with a design partner. His name is Alvaro. He lives in my hometown. And I mean, he has decades of experience both designing and producing shoes. And I had a pretty good idea of what I wanted the collection to look like. And so I put like honestly mood boards in a deck together and just send them to him. We had conversations about like my feel and my vision for the brand. Then he sent me sketches. I gave feedback, but I think we're pretty in sync in terms of like taste. So that process of aligning on the look and feel of the shoe was actually pretty seamless. And then after that, you have to kick off like sample development, sourcing the different components. So, like, one thing you'll notice Tammy's heels have a very specific, iconic shape. They are a bit slanted. So, we had to source that specific heel from a specific component provider also in my region. And so, that process is lengthy, just figuring out the different components, the different parts, like where you're gonna get the leather from, what kinds of leather we're talking about. I mean, I knew I didn't want to do hardware. I just wanted to keep things as simple as possible. And once you have the samples locked in, then that's when you decide to go into production. So yeah, I mean, all in, it's definitely a few months.
Like, I'm just curious to know how long that whole process took from the time you had the idea for the brand to when you had your first sample to when you actually had your products ready.
Yeah, well, I guess this is one of my character traits. I have like a extreme bias for action. So I started this honestly just like as a passion project at the beginning of the year. I just wanted to explore whether I could have like a side hustle. Like it was just more out of passion. And so, yeah, let's say probably overall like took like 6 or 7 months to get everything and then launch the site. So I guess like around 9 or 10 months all in. Yes, I moved pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you recently just launched your brand, is that correct?
Yeah, honestly,
And your
the site
website.
the site has been live for 3 or 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks.
Had led the growth team at Rent the Runway. What were some of the biggest takeaways about scaling a DTC brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on one of them, which is like product is super important. You like really need to build a company around the product that solves consumer needs. So I think that's kind of like number one for consumer businesses. And number two is like really being like customer obsessed. And what I mean by that is people have limited bandwidth and limited headspace. And so I really believe that the way to grow your brand is if you're able to tap into people's needs and problems and position yourself as a solution to those needs and problems. Those two things, like product and customer first, are really important. And then what I will also say is that like 10 maybe years ago, growth marketing lived on its own orbit and brand marketing also lived on its own orbit, and growth was like super focused on, like demand capture and essentially customer acquisition cost. And it was very heavily driven by like how you were doing the media buys. And then brand, on the other hand, was very focused on more like upper funnel demand generation tactics and not as analytical. And I think those days are kind of over. I really believe that brand is growth and growth is brand, and you cannot really separate the two. I actually think that the only way to build like sustainable long term growth is if you're able to solidify an emotional connection with your customer. And you have to do that in every touch point because, from a user perspective, like they don't care if it's a paid ad on Instagram or, they're seeing like your organic post. Something that I have a strong conviction on is that there needs to be like really strong brand alignment across all of your marketing touch points. You'll be successful if you really like touch on that emotional connection, not only build a brand on the back of paid performance, but also like organic and community and sort of traditional brand channels.
And so, are you able to apply some of the lessons that you learned from working at Rent the Runway to Cammy's early stage growth?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I definitely am trying to, on the one hand, really nail and scale a performance marketing engine. By that, I mean, like optimizing the site, really delivering on a solid email program, kicking off like paid advertising across like paid social and paid search channels. And so that is table stakes and like you need that. But then I'm also really focused on growing that authentic, organic community of people that gravitate toward the brand and that are going to become your advocates and that are excited to hear about the brand. And so I'm doing two things. I'm like starting to really spend some time on organic social content and I had to get over myself. I don't like social media. I'm like didn't have TikTok before and now I'm like just trying to get out there and just like film some content and really put a face behind the brand and create that personal connection. So that's one hand on the one hand. And then on the other hand, I've started to, build connections with creators and influencers who I feel are brand aligned and are also passionate about the brand and the story resonates with them. And starting to build that community of future brand ambassadors, hopefully. Really moving on the two tracks at the same time.
And what has been the biggest challenge in moving from a corporate leadership role to now starting your own business from scratch?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm pretty much alone. I am having to do everything myself. And so in my prior life, I had like access to resources and like obviously Rent the Runway is an established company, had a team. I mean, like now I'm like literally on Canva, like doing ads myself, like creative for the ads, right? And like having to DIY everything. And so I think that's been a challenge because in many ways, I know what good looks like, or what like really good looks like, what execution excellence can look like. I mean, I'm a marketer, I'm not a graphic designer. And so I think the hardest thing for me has been just wrapping my head around the fact that like this is where we're at today and I'm just trying to do things as best as I can in the most cost efficient way and just trying to be very resourceful. I'm also tapping like some freelance help, just to add more leverage to my time, but with the understanding that we'll improve and get better over time as we scale, right? And so kind of detaching from perfectionism and really embracing the fact that done is better than perfect. And also that I'd rather like move quickly versus like being paralyzed and not get learnings, not get the word out there. And honestly, people are quite understanding. Like I know that the content in my site could be 100 times better, but I'm just getting started. And I think good enough sometimes has to be good enough. Those are like my ongoing plans as I move from like team support to just okay, I'm on my own. So yeah.
Yeah, and that oftentimes is a really big change for someone coming from corporate who had a team behind them to do those things. Like you said, that you're not necessarily good at doing graphic design. You had a graphic designer there to do, but now it's up to you to do many of the things, right? Um,
Totally. Yeah, no, I mean, I think one of the things I'll say is that I think one of the themes of my non-linear career path is that I think everything is figure outable. And so like I really think that the difference between people that are able to do it versus people that not is just a matter of how passionate are you about this problem? How many hours are you willing to invest in trying to solve this, in trying to figure this out? In trying to find the resources, the network, whatever it is, like how obsessed are you with this problem? And then you figure it out. So I think it's a combination of passion and hard work.
yeah. And are you sharing that process with your audience as well? Like sort of the journey that you're going through right now and showing those behind the scenes and maybe not so perfect moments?
I think I need to do a better job of that. And so, yes, I'm actually just working on this like a much more granular content plan. So I actually capture that and like just offer vulnerability and hopefully inspire other people to do the same, because like guess what? If you wait until it's perfect, you'll never do it.
That's very true. And I think it's almost it probably what makes you authentic, as opposed to showing such polished everything, looking so perfect, but showing the reality of what is really going on, I think also builds more that emotional connection between you and your audience and not just making yourself looks like you're, a super polished, big name
Definitely not.
brand or something, right? So I think that whole storytelling aspect is also very important part of the journey.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I have to say at the very beginning, couple months ago, I was a bit like daunted at this idea of like, oh my God, like having to produce content is actually a lot of work too, you know? I mean, I've never in my personal life been like a big social media person. And now like I've had this like moment of realizing, oh my God, this is so much work. And you have to be strategic. I'm really good at executing. But then guess what? Volume and frequency really matter a lot as well. I'm in the phase of like, I acknowledge that it's a really important part and a really important piece of the marketing puzzle. So now I'm just working to build like a system of scale to be able to actually, weave this with my everyday like cadence and operationalize it in a way that is approachable, right? So that's where I'm at. I mean, I've definitely started to post more. I'm starting to use some AI like apps to make like some fun content, and that's easy. But yeah, I think for anyone who cares that is listening, like more will come over the next couple of weeks, kicking like a robust plan off. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, wow. I look forward to following you along your journey as well. And so, just kind of like you had mentioned, it's important to be solving a problem, right? Just curious to know, like, sort of what was that gap that you had identified in the market and what was that Cameo was hoping to fill?
Yeah, I mean, I guess two things. I think like having like worked in fashion for I was at RTR for like 5 and almost half years. Something that I like I guess I realized, or I mean I think I always knew this, but I had like realization. Like women are really smart and they really care about value. And what I mean by value is getting like good quality at a kind of reasonable price point. And in my insight is that people are actually willing to pay a little bit more to get like higher quality, right? So I think that's part of what informed like the Kami strategy. So Kami is really all about that. I want to deliver value. I want people to feel this is a good investment because I'm getting 100% leather. It's handcrafted. It's versatile styles. I'm going to be able to wear them everywhere. And, like, it's not like a crazy expensive product. Like, our products range from like 270 to like 350, but you're getting like designer level qualities. That was rooted in that insight of like, I don't want women to have to compromise anymore because I don't want to compromise. So that's part of it. And then on the other hand, I mentioned this at the top of our conversation. When I wanted to buy shoes here, I mean, in Spain, like there's a lot of like really good shoes. When I was here, oftentimes like didn't know where to buy. Like I think there's a lot of like options where you're getting like maybe not so good quality shoes for like you're already paying like 100 plus by the way, or you just have to go and like make a commitment and invest in designer for like 600 plus. And so yeah, I think like the other part of the insight that I had was I think there's an opportunity here like in the I guess like mid market if you want to call it that, or like entry like contemporary. I think those were the two sort of user problems, or it's the same user problem really that I identified and like built the opportunity around.
And you have some really nice shoes too. I saw the pump with the signature heel on it. And I think that looked great I mean, it's a classic shoe, right? But just with a little twist to it. But I feel like, it's worth the investment to pay for a high quality shoe that will last for years, right? I don't just buy shoes once, wear them and throw them away. I keep my shoes for years. I've had some, from 10 years ago and they still have lasted and maintained its quality, right? So if you think about that longevity of the time, it's worth it.
I mean, I think the other thing that I didn't touch on is the pump is the name of the shoe. or the name of the style is No Regrets, because I don't know if like this happened to you, but in my opinion, there's nothing worse than leaving your house in the morning and like less than 1 hour into your day, you're already regretting the shoes that you're wearing. And I was like, I'm done with this. And so I am shoe obsessed. I'm like a shoeaholic. I have so many shoes, but I have so many shoes that I've only worn like one or twice, you know? And so
Yes.
all of the Kami shoes are actually designed with like a woman in mind who is going places. Like we got things to do. All of the women in my life, I'm like so lucky to be inspired by women who are like professionals. They're moms. They like are creators. They travel. Like they need to go places. And so can we please like deliver some shoes that are like stylish and comfortable at the same time? And so that's what I had in mind too. So the heels, for example, they're like 2-inch heels. I walk around with those shoes in New York and like I don't want to have regrets. I like take the subway stairs up and down, like go dancing. And like that was part of it too. It's like shoes that you can actually use and you'll get value out of everywhere. And they're really thought for versatility and like kind of wide range of use cases. Another example is the Chelsea boot. That one is called the 9 to 5 to 9 because I really think it's like a style that you can wear to work and then go to dinner with and like you don't even have to think twice, right? So I mean, yeah, the shoes are designed with, I guess, usability in mind, and hopefully like people are able to wear them everywhere all the time.
You're originally from Spain, but now you're based in New York. How has living in New York City influenced your entrepreneurial mindset, approach to building a brand?
Oh my God, I love New York. I feel so grateful that I live in the city. I think New York is just the city of opportunity. And what I mean by that is you leave your house on a random Tuesday morning and like you don't even know who you're gonna meet, right? So many things can happen to you. The city just has like such a special energy. There's like an incredible drive. Obviously, there's a lot of ambitious people, but there's also a lot of art, a lot of beauty, a lot of restaurants. So I think it's like big city of inspiration for me and like a big city of exposure where I really connect with that feeling of believing that anything is possible because it's just like such a magical place. So, yeah, I don't think I could have ever done this if I weren't here.
Do you find it easy to make connections within the New York design or business community?
Yes, honestly, that's been like an amazing part of this process. I mean, I have joined like I met you through like the Female Founder Collective, for example. So I've joined like a couple entrepreneur or like female founder related organizations that really create a lot of space and opportunity. But then, I've also had the chance to like meet other founders like through my personal life and then they introduce you to people or even like I mean, today I just had an amazing opportunity. I work with Chase. That's like the bank where I have the bank account for Kami, and they just organized these like super cool like event. They invited me, so I just went and like people like what I've really noticed is like everyone is like very generous with their time. I mean, you have to put yourself out there, but if you make the effort and you like attend events and are just fundamentally like a nice person, like it's not that hard.
As a solo founder, how do you stay motivated and manage uncertainty during these early stages?
Yes, I mean, I think I'm like a generally a positive person, but obviously, during this process, you have moments of self-doubt or thinking like, am I completely reckless and crazy to have changed my life so much in such a short time span? Or, you also get scared, like was this like a bad idea? So those moments definitely happen. I think first of all, community has been really important for me. I joke around with my friends saying that I've become their neediest friend. I'm always like texting them with questions and just my friends and family have been like super supportive. I call my mom my chief psychologist officer, like I call her almost every day. She knows more about footwear than she ever cared to know at this point, I think. So I think like having a community is like really important. And then the other part of it is like really connecting to your why. Like why did you start this in the first place? And like really feeling like solid profound conviction around your why, like since the start, and then reminding you of that whenever you have like moments of doubt or moments of, I guess, not as much inspiration. So I think like going back to your why and like trying to connect and project with that vision of where you think this can go, those two things have been important. And then one last thing is I think when you're an entrepreneur, there's like a big tendency to just like work, work, work. There's always something to do. Like you're always kind of just like sending an email or talking to someone, or the limit is the sky in terms of work. And what I found is that you actually not sometimes need like a moment for yourself, and you need to create spaces for inspiration, spaces to connect with other sides of you that are not just this, and spaces to just get in like flow and enjoy life so you can come back to your work with like more energy, more inspiration. So that's been hard for me because now I just want to work every day, but I'm really trying to carve out and like kind of give myself Saturdays or like Saturday morning for like no work time, like absolutely nothing, and just do my thing.
It's important to set those boundaries, I think, and make time for the self-care aspect
Mhm.
because as entrepreneurs, yeah, we could just keep going forever. And if you don't have those limits or boundaries, you could easily burn yourself out,
Totally.
I find.
Yes. And like not, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So yes.
It is a marathon, yes, because we wanna be this in for the long term, right? It's a
Mhm.
long game, it's not a sprint. You're right, it's a marathon, and I'm really happy to hear that you have the support of your friends and family and the community behind you as well, because it's so important as founders. Through this podcast, having spoken and done many interviews, I find this common thread that's amongst all the founders and CEOs, both from early stage startups to long brands that have been around for decades. And they're all saying, yeah, your values are important. Always stick to your values. And also your community is also important as people who will be there to support you through all the ups and downs that you will be experiencing throughout this whole process and this journey.
Yes. I feel like very blessed to be honest. And I've been surprised at how supportive like my friends and family have been. So yeah, that's been an amazing added bonus.
And do you have any friends in business as well?
I do have a couple friends who are like founders, just very different kind of business. I mean, Kami is fundamentally bootstrapped. I did raise like a friends and family round, but you know, we're not like VC funded or anything. I do have friends who have their own like more tech or SaaS type companies. And yeah, I mean, I definitely go to them with like questions when I have them. They always one of the best advice I got from one of my friends who started his own business was like, don't overthink. He's like, 90% of the decisions are reversible. So, you know, just go for it.
What's your long-term vision for Cami?
Part of me is like, I don't know even know if I've thought that far. Honestly, I'm just like excited to grow the business and like have fun in the meantime, you know? Yeah, I think I really just want to scale it. I want to become like a staple brand in the footwear space, hopefully globally at some point. You know, right now we only market in the US. In the process, you know, build a team that I love working with, and we just like have fun and try out different things. That's my vision, and like hopefully we empower women to go places, to believe in themselves, to like take the plunge and feel proud to walk in their shoes.
How do you see the DTC footwear space evolving in the next few years?
Yeah, I think honestly, like the footwear, I think was in like online purchases was always like lagging a little bit behind fashion, I think, because there's more barriers to purchase, like when you're thinking about the sizing and the fit and all of that. And so over the last few years, it's like starting to accelerate. I was just reading a report recently, I believe it's like a 9% CAGR for shoe like e-com growth. So I think there's definitely it's gonna become more ubiquitous in terms of like buying it online and not going to the store. I do think that footwear will always remain like somewhat of an experiential purchase, also because the leather and the feeling and like you have to try it because you have to walk in it. There's always gonna be like an in-person aspect to it, but the e-com like aspect will continue to grow. And I do think that we're gonna see more brands, like more independent or like not heritage brands kind of rising. I mean, we're starting to see some of that. I think this will continue. I think there was like a huge indie trend in beauty, then came like ready to wear, and I think we'll probably see that too in footwear. I think it's been harder traditionally because as I mentioned, shoes are like harder to make. But I do think that, we'll see a little bit more of that, just like more new independent brands emerging.
And what's next for you and your brand? Are there any upcoming launches or projects that you're excited about?
I mean, we just launched our first collection, like as I mentioned, literally like a couple weeks ago. So right now we're really focused on sort of building the marketing channels behind it and start to grow that community and the performance engine. So sort of getting our marketing to a decent place and build those systems of scale. But I'm already thinking about the spring summer collection that won't go to like live until 2026 in the spring, but already starting to work through that. So I'm excited about that.
What's a piece of advice that you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs based on your own experiences and lessons learned?
Yeah, I mean, few things that were important for me. I think one thing is you have to really know your why and like really want it and really connect with your energy behind like starting something because once you're in it, like you're in it, and you're going to have to love the reason why you're there and continue to find that to be a source of inspiration. So I would really encourage everyone to kind of think hard and deep about that before they start a business. I would also say, and look, this is something I'm trying to practice by myself. As I mentioned, I mean, like, I'm someone who has like extreme bias for action, which I guess is a polite way of saying that I'm like really impatient. And I always like to move really fast. But like we said, you're in your business for the long run. And so something that I've learned is like sometimes you need to take like a beat and you need to instead of trying to go and deliver on everything like super fast, it's more about slow cooking and taking some perspective and moving with a little bit more caution so that you can execute better. Yeah, that's something that I'm like navigating now. I think you don't build a brand in 2 days, like you need to get to people and like really build those emotional connections. And that takes time. Just as with anything in life, any like deeper relationship, like people need to get to know you and who you are and what you stand for and try you and then come back, hopefully. Right. And so that's not going to happen overnight. And yeah, so I think, just like not losing the plot and and knowing that you have to be consistent and show up every day and eventually things will compound and like you'll have like a brand trajectory, but like that takes some time.
Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Yes, of course. Well, I think first of all, we're growing our Instagram. So you can follow us at shop kami.official. So that's our Instagram channel. And as I said, we're like really committed to starting to post more and hopefully deliver entertainment and fun content. So that's our channel. And then I mean, yeah, if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm also really happy to share my email. It's lv@shopkami.co.
Thank you so much, Leticia. And I'm so happy that you reached out to me.
Well, I
Thank you
mean,
so
thank
much.
you for having me. I mean, that's another piece of advice that I didn't mention is like make things happen for yourself. I'm like shameless. And, many times people say yes and like they take you up. So thank you.
I really think that's great. And I'm so happy that you did. And you're putting yourself out there and, you know, telling your story. And now more people will get to hear about it and learn about you.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. I love your podcast. You have an incredible roster of guests. So I'm just honored to kind of be part of it. Thank you.